If you like to talk about combat sports and you want to join the discussion, click the subscribe button below and the bell notification icon next to it and join Knucklehead Nation. What's going on, Knuckleheads? Welcome to the FightersRep video podcast. I'm your host, the FightersRep, and today we're going to be talking about Conor versus Cowboy. And if you're living under a rock, that's Conor McGregor versus Cowboy Cerrone. This is the final prediction. We're live at the forum right here for everybody to discuss the fight as much as they'd like. So, that's why we do this. And this is the final prediction for the fight. We had a prediction earlier this week on Monday, but we always give ourselves a little bit of leeway to sort of change depending on what transpires, especially after the weigh-ins. But it looks like both guys have weighed in clean at 170 pounds, and we have a fight tonight, Knuckleheads. By the way, thank you guys for joining. It's much appreciated. So, nothing really changes on our front from FightersRep as far as the prediction goes. I do believe that despite the fact that Conor McGregor has been out of the octagon since, I believe it's October of 2018, that he's just too fast, too much, too explosive, too athletic, too skilled for Cowboy Cerrone. That's not to say that it can't be an entertaining battle and that Cowboy Cerrone doesn't have some advantages. Of course, you have to look at the fact that he's been much more active. You also have to look at the fact that he is a taller guy and, I would imagine would have a bigger frame, at least as far as lengthwise goes, although I think Conor's much wider, has stronger shoulders, just a stronger base, but Cowboy, a very strong guy himself, 6 feet inches, I think he's 6'1", actually, and so he's posing that height advantage. He's also, I think, got some good kicks. Now, will he utilize those kicks? I think that's going to be an important factor in this fight. If Cowboy hopes to get the upset here, I would imagine that he's a heavy underdog at this point, and I think for good reason. Again, I don't see where Cerrone has an advantage other than the fact that, he's been more active. He's good in the stand-up as far as his kicks go. And for me, that's pretty much it. And it looks like McGregor is the minus 300 or so fighter in this fight. So, definitely the odds are in Conor's favor, and I think that's for a reason. Now, again, Cerrone, besides the fact that I think he's at a tremendous disadvantage, both as far as explosiveness goes, power, and athleticism. I think he's also at a disadvantage when it comes to his age. He's at the worser side, I guess you would say, of his 30s. Whereas Conor McGregor, might just be priming right now. There's all this talk of McGregor being the best they've ever seen him. From his camp and from himself. And I know that that's cliche and that's something that a lot of people say, leading up to a fight. They're always claiming that they're the best they've ever been. And I don't know if that's like a thing to get in people's heads or in their opponent's head. Or whatever it is. But I really do see how that could be the case for Conor McGregor. They interviewed in, I think it's one of these embedded or countdown series, Dylan Dennis, and he was saying how Conor McGregor is in a much better headspace. He's in a much better headspace than he typically was. And we can see it as fans. We can see it in the press conference. There was no negativity. He was very positive. It was almost strange that he was so positive and courteous towards Cowboy Cerrone. And, I don't think that that's really going to mess with Conor McGregor's killer instinct. But I do think that he seems like a much happier guy. Perhaps the Khabib fight humbled him. Perhaps all the stuff he's been through in the past year has humbled him. Who knows? But I think Conor McGregor definitely has the advantage here, despite the fact, again, that he's been out the octagon for a while. And if they're telling me that he's the best he's ever been, I believe it. Sometimes you hear something and it's said in a way with a demeanor and with a certain with a certain tone where you call it into question. But in this case, Conor McGregor and his team saying he's the best he's ever been, they really sound genuine. They seem to believe what they're saying. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow with Conor McGregor doing his thing, man. Again, he's a huge injection of popularity and excitement for the sport, and anytime he's out there, he's a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun to watch. As far as his demeanor, I did notice that they were doing a little bit behind the scenes for McGregor in one of these embedded series or something like that. And I noticed that after rolling in one of the practices that they videoed, that he seemed to look up to the sky and pray. I don't know if Conor is maybe gravitated more towards religion. Maybe that's part of the reason he's changed his attitude so much. Perhaps it's the trouble he's been in with the law. But either way, there's a telling, obvious change there. And another thing that I want to bring up is, my goodness, what a salesman Conor McGregor is. He went from being this notorious, hated, villainous figure in his last fight where he was just oozing venom, right? Just spitting venom out of every single orifice. I don't know if that sounded right, but spitting venom, at the press conferences against Khabib and so on and so forth. And he went from that and selling that to now being this nice guy. And man, it's like everybody's buying it, It's like the majority of the crowd is buying it. It's incredible how a guy who, made a living off being a heel can flip into a face and sell it and make people love him. Now everybody loves Conor McGregor. It's really astounding. You got to give him credit where credit is due. Suleiman, thank you so much for joining the chat, brother. He says, "What's good, knuckleheads?" What's good to you, my brother? Thank you for joining the chat. It's much appreciated. I just doing a little breakdown here before the McGregor-Cerrone fight tomorrow. And of course, nothing's changed. Both guys weigh in at 170 pounds on the spot, both professional. Conor McGregor looking jacked, I must say, looking really jacked at 170 pounds. But looking fit, not looking fat at all. Neither guy. Both guys looking shredded, despite the fact that they weighed in at 170 pounds. But again, Conor looks much stronger. And again, I believe the stronger, the more explosive athlete, the more experienced, I don't know about experience, but the more educated striker. And I do think this is going to be a striking match. I don't really see this going to the ground. If it goes to the ground, I think it'll be brief. But I think Conor McGregor is going to, take this one. And my prediction stands from Monday. This fight is going to get finished by Conor McGregor within 3 rounds, I would say. Within 3 rounds, somewhere in the first 3 rounds, I think Conor's going to end this thing by knockout or stoppage. The only way for Cowboy Cerrone to get through this fight is if he can, I think, keep Conor at bay with lots of leg kicks, with utilizing his jab, and, last until the later rounds, hoping that Conor gasses. Otherwise, he's going to have to get this thing to the ground, which I don't think he's going to do, because, again, he's the Cowboy. So I think he's going to want to stand and fight this fight, especially to give people what they want. It is Conor, right? And they want to see him strike. So there you have it, knuckleheads. That's my prediction. First 3 rounds, I think this thing is over. I think this thing finishes. Muay Thai 23 in the chat. What up, my brother? He says, Cowboy is going to get smoked. And then he says, bro's got lats on another level for sure, my man. Conor, I guess that's where he generates all that power from, man. What What a physical specimen. He looked in tip-top shape. Let me tell you guys, standing on that weight scale. Suleiman says Cowboy has already accepted his fate, and Conor is on the juice. Uh-oh. We've got some PED accusations going on in the chat, guys. Guys, let's keep it clean. Unless we have evidence, we can't do it. We can't do that unless we have evidence. Before I continue, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, comment, share, hit the bell notification icon. Definitely subscribe. Feel free to donate to the channel. Anything you guys donate helps me continue to build this channel and our kickboxing promotion, FightersRep 9. It's going down February 28th. Got some fantastic fights. Gonna hope to aim for about 16 fights, so you guys definitely want to tune in. If you can buy your tickets, buy them. They're at FightersRep.com. It's going to be going down here in Southern California at Seal Beach. If not, I'm going to be airing it live and free for the viewers. Keep us free. Help with a donation. Also, you can buy your FightersRep t-shirt in the link below. I mean, these t-shirts are dope, man. So these things actually go like hotcakes at the show. So, if you buy your t-shirt in the link below, it's much appreciated. The proceeds will go into building the promotion. So, let's see here. Muay Thai 23. He's got his own prediction. First off, he says, no way Conor's on the juice. And he says, I think Cowboy gets stopped in the first. Wow. Could you imagine if Conor McGregor comes out a year and 3 months after his last fight, comes out there, throws a couple feelers and connects with that left and puts Cowboy to sleep? My goodness, I mean, that place would absolutely explode. I do think that the fight's going to go a little longer, but you never know, man, with Conor and with that left hand. That left hand really, I mean, today I was talking about it with a friend of mine, and they were asking me who I thought was going to win and why. And this friend of mine, he's not a huge MMA fan the way I am, and not a huge, combat sports fan the way I am. But this friend of mine, he's interested because, let's face it, this fight is mainstream. Conor brings that sort of mainstream attention. So he asked me, he said, who do you think wins this fight? And I said, well, Conor McGregor's going to win this fight. And he asked me why. I said, hey, man. He said, why? The guy hasn't fought in so long. I said, hey, man, this guy, he's got the touch of death in that left hand. He's a southpaw. That's something we can't forget. Conor McGregor is a southpaw. And not only is that awkward and unorthodox for your typical fighter to deal with, but he's got the touch of death in that left hand, knuckleheads. Let's not forget that, man. I mean, if that thing lands, it's an early night, and come join Conor at Red Panty Night, whatever club he's going to be celebrating, subsequent to the fight, the after party, because if that left hand lands, it's going to be early night, and people are going to they're going to have tons of energy to burn, so they're going to have to go to Red Panty Night at the local club and spread that energy, spread that love, if you know what I mean. Suleiman says Khabib beats Conor no matter what, 10 times out of 10. Oh. Well, Suleiman, I mean, let's not forget, Conor McGregor did actually win a round against Khabib. He's the only guy to win a round against Khabib. So, depending on how Tony Ferguson does in this next fight, Conor McGregor may be the stiffest, or may have been the stiffest test for Khabib up until now. I know people will say there are people that have taken Khabib to the 5th round, but they got dominated. And the only one that gave him a little bit of trouble was Al Iaquinta. Maybe that's the argument that can be made, but we've seen Al, he's kind of not looking so great recently, coming off that loss to Dan Hooker. But, the argument can be made that Conor McGregor gave Khabib his toughest fight. And even if we do think that Khabib wins 10 times out of 10, which I don't believe. I do believe that Conor is the kind of guy that could beat Khabib if he's dialed in and has the right game plan. But it'll be a tough fight. But even if we do believe that 10 times out of 10 Khabib beats Conor, I still think that that's a fight to make because, he gave Khabib one of his toughest fights and was actually landing shots on Khabib and, posed a problem for Khabib as much as anybody in the division has. And, I do think after Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje should get that fight. That's who I think should get the fight against Khabib. That being said, I wouldn't be against Conor getting the fight after Gaethje. Now, if Conor gets the fight before Gaethje, I think that's, I'm calling bullshit on that one big time. But, if Conor finishes Cowboy in spectacular fashion on Saturday, perhaps in a fashion better than what Gaethje did, which I think might be hard to top, but perhaps he does that, then my goodness, then McGregor actually has a case to fight Khabib after Ferguson. But again, I would still put Gaethje before Conor in line to fight Khabib because he beat Cowboy already. So I think if we're being fair, we're doing this in order. We feed Gaethje to Khabib, and after the Ferguson fight, assuming Khabib even gets by Ferguson, and then we feed Conor to Khabib. Now, as you guys know, I had Chad George on the show, these past couple weeks, and he actually thinks, of course, he's a big jiu-jitsu head. He's actually competing tomorrow on Flow Grappling if you want to tune in and watch him. But, he actually thinks that Tony Ferguson is Khabib Nurmagomedov's kryptonite, and he actually thinks that Tony Ferguson is going to beat Khabib. So, what an interesting time. What a fantastic time for the sport. What a fantastic time for combat sports. Hey, it's always a good time for combat sports, knuckleheads. And, I'm excited to see what happens. Personally, I could see Ferguson beating Khabib. I could see it, but I got to rock with Khabib. I just think he just doesn't know how to lose. He's got so much confidence, but, it could be a scary situation because if he's in a situation he was with Dustin Poirier where he gets caught around his neck in a guillotine or something like that, if that's Tony Ferguson, man, I don't know. What do you guys think? Call me crazy, but if that's Tony Ferguson that wraps those long-ass limbs around Khabib's neck in that situation, does Khabib get out of that hold, out of that guillotine with his conscience? I don't know. Muay Thai 23 says, I think he wants to try and get back to Khabib loss and move up to 170 pounds. That would be interesting. D-Boy65, thanks for joining the chat, brother. He says, Pac-Man knocks out Conor in one round. Wow, I don't know about that, D-Boy. I think that's a bit extreme, if I'm being honest with you. If Floyd Mayweather couldn't get him out of there for, 10 rounds or so, I don't think Pac-Man will get him out of there in one round. Pac-Man maybe wins that fight, but, and I say maybe because let's not forget, Pac-Man could show his age at any time now. The guy's 40 plus. And if he fought McGregor, he would be at a tremendous size disadvantage because, even when McGregor fought Floyd, it looked like McGregor had the size advantage. So, it would be a tremendous size advantage for McGregor, a tremendous age advantage for McGregor, despite the fact that he hasn't, he's not a boxer. But, we saw him do some decent work against Floyd Mayweather, and I think it would be an interesting fight against Manny Pacquiao, considering the fact that Manny Pacquiao is as old as he is. Now, I do think, obviously, a young, priming Manny Pacquiao probably runs through anybody. But That's not where we're at now. And so that's why I've got a bit of a problem with your prediction, D-Boy, saying that Pac-Man knocks Conor out one round. Whiskey Dragonfly says, peace, peace, fam. Salute and pieces to you too, my brother. He says, casuals that don't own gloves, hand wraps, shin guards, multiple gis, and mouth guards, rash guards, look at Cowboy's record and think it's a foregone conclusion for a Conor win. You know, I do think Conor wins this fight by stoppage in the first 3 rounds, but it's not a foregone conclusion. He can catch Conor coming in with a leg kick, a kick to the head, a shin to the head. He can catch him on the ground and with some BJJ. I mean, anything can happen. It is a fight, and I do think as long as the fight continues, Cowboys' chances increase. But at the end of the day, man, from what I've seen in Cowboys' past couple performances, just Cowboy as a whole, as a person, he doesn't have, I think, those fast twitchies, that explosiveness to keep Conor at bay, or the devastating power to maybe keep Conor, away from him. He also doesn't even have the reach advantage in this fight, despite being about 3 inches taller, 4 inches taller. He doesn't have the reach advantage. And so, I mean, all his advantages, you can narrow down to 2 things. It's activity, and he's lost his past couple fights. And I think his kicking. His kicking may be superior to Conor's, and that's a maybe, but I would imagine they are. I would imagine his kicking is superior, and maybe his ground game, but we don't really see Cowboy on the ground. And I don't think this fight's going to the ground. So while it's not a foregone conclusion, he's definitely favored for a reason. Conor's definitely favored for a reason. Muay Thai 23 says, Whiskey, who you call a casual, bro. I got 106 MMA highlight videos saved in my YouTube favorites. Muay Thai 23, I must say, my man, you make me proud. You've turned a leaf. You went from tasteless, ridiculous, superfluous, and unnecessary comments to being a humorous contributor in this chat. And, I feel like a proud parent, my brother. I'm really proud of you, and I thank you for being in here, my man. Don Vergas is in here saying, yo, my brother, thank you for joining the chat. Please hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon next to it, and join Knucklehead Nation if you really want to be a part of these chats. We do them every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific, like clockwork, and immediately after all the big fights. So you could tune in here tomorrow after that McGregor Cowboy Cerrone fight, and we can just talk about it, baby. We can just talk about it, be about it. It's a long Martin Luther King weekend. Get some drinks in you. I'm telling you, tomorrow we're going to have a real nice long chat with the aid of whiskey, vodka, proper 12 beer, whatever the hell it is you drink, tea. If you're like me, drinking tea right now, keep the throat alive, keep the throat going. So yeah, definitely join us tomorrow. D-Boy65 says Khabib versus Tony Ferguson is the fight of the year, no doubt. And I agree with that. That is going to be the fight I think that everybody's going to want to watch. Everybody's going to have their eyes on that fight. Khabib has essentially become the polar opposite, but of Conor McGregor, when Conor McGregor was at his most charismatic and villainous. He's become the polar opposite of that, while somehow still managing to nearly match Conor McGregor's popularity. I mean, we got to admit at this point, Khabib Nurmagomedov has been able to work the mic, I think, his own personal, his ethnicity, his religion, his own beliefs. He's been able to work that in his favor in a way to where he's now as popular as Conor McGregor in some circles. I wouldn't say he's as popular, but he's close. He's definitely close. He's become an international superstar. And, man, you got to give him props. I mean, besides the fact that he's a tremendous fighter and his fighting is so good and his performance is so impressive that it's gotten him out there. It's also his personality. He has his own charisma, even for a guy, who doesn't really speak English that well or as a first language. I mean, you got to give the guy props. So, I'm amazed by Khabib, and that Khabib-Ferguson fight is going to be, I think, a spectacular fight. That's must-see TV, and I'm wondering if after surgery and now the fact, that Tony Ferguson is in his mid-30s, I'm wondering how his body is holding up and if this is going to be his last chance at a title. Because if Khabib runs through Ferguson and nobody can dislodge Khabib, that's going to be a huge, huge issue for Ferguson. D-Boy65 said he dropped Thurman in the first round. LOL, imagine if that was Conor. Well, D-Boy, Pacquiao dropped Thurman in the first round. But that's not to say that he would drop Conor McGregor. I mean, and let's not forget, Keith Thurman is still a human being. He had been out of the ring for, I think it was like over a year with elbow injuries and having surgery. He came back. He fought a life and death fight against the Riverside Rocky, who, is not an elite fighter by any means. So it showed that Keith Thurman had really gone down a couple steps, and for him to go straight from that fight against the Riverside Rocky into the Pacquiao fight without a tune-up fight or without, his condition being at 100% or what it was prior to his elbow surgery, I think we got to take that into consideration too. Saul West, thank you for joining the chat, my brother. Much appreciated. He says, Pac-Man beats McGregor down. McGregor ain't nothing on Thurman. Again, that might be right. But let's not forget, McGregor went out there and gave Floyd Mayweather some hard rounds until he got tired. So, it would be an interesting fight. I think we're kidding ourselves if we don't think that would be an interesting fight. Muay Thai 23 says Cerrone gets hit way too much to beat Conor. People are then talking about him not doing it to Nate. Nate's chin is on another level to Cerrone. Two different striker levels. I'm going to have to agree with Muay Thai 23 on that one. I do think that they're on separate levels, both as far as striking and as far as their chins go. But again, I think Cerrone's got some good kicks. At the end of the day, though, I think he gets finished within 3 rounds. Don Vergas. Yo! Again, we said yo to Don Vergas. What's up, my brother? D-Boy65 saying, are you going to see Jillian Williams versus Rosario? What's your prediction for that fight? I think I got to go with Julian Williams on that one, but we'll see what happens. I like Julian Williams on that one. Tell me what you think about that, D-Boy. Khosrav Sadarov says McGregor is killing him, bro. What's up, host? Thank you for joining the chat. Host the boss. If you guys don't know, Khosrav is a fighter that actually fights for FightersRep. He's only 2-0. He's only 2-0 in a ring, as far as I know. I know he's had some crazy fights in Azerbaijan in the streets or in factories or whatever it is that he sent me videos of, but 2-0 in the ring. And I actually made him the main event at the last FightersRep event because, he's extremely dynamic and talented, this kid, Khosrav Sadarov. I definitely suggest that you guys check him out on our channel so you can see what I'm talking about. He's going to be going into his 3rd fight on Friday, February 28th, so definitely tune in and watch. Or if you're in Southern California, get your tickets at FightersRep.com. You're not going to want to miss Khosrav Sadarov go up against a very, very tough opponent that, you're definitely not going to want to miss it. An opponent who's 1-0 in the FightersRep ring, Montoya, who's definitely a tough kid, and you guys are not going to want to miss that one. Don Vergas says Cerrone looked chill at the weigh-ins. I don't know, man. He might upset. Just saying. My money says McGregor, though. And I agree with your money, Don Vergas. I know Cerrone is a tough guy, and he looked chill or whatever. But I don't think it makes a difference. I think skills pay the bills at the end of the day. I don't think Cerrone will ever have the skills or the explosiveness that Conor McGregor does, or the technique. And skills pay the bills, man. I got to put my money on Conor McGregor if I'm a betting man. By the way, speaking of skills pay the bills, I don't know if you guys saw the channel. I recently had an interview. I posted it yesterday. Again with Manny Robles, Andy Ruiz's coach, as well as Charles Martin, Terrell Gachet, all these guys. So, he's now making it happen at Jackrabbit Boxing Gym right here near me in Long Beach, California. And the boxing gym was absolutely packed. So, I'll be interviewing Manny Robles once in a while just so we can see what he's up to. Hopefully see if Andy Ruiz goes back to him and starts training again. And, we'll just see what happens. But, it was a really good interview. He actually gave me his Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 2 prediction. I also interviewed Terrell Gachet. As you guys know, he had that horrible decision against Austin Trout in his last fight. So, and I also saw Edmund Tarverdyan there, Ronda Rousey's coach. He was training some fighters there as well. He's also Edmund Shahbazian's coach, a fantastic talent in the UFC. I spoke to him. I'll be uploading those interviews soon, so definitely check out those interviews. Malcolm Coley, what's up, my brother? Thank you for joining. Hit the subscribe and the bell notification icon next to it and join Knucklehead Nation. He says Conor gets to fight Khabib or Usman for the belt? After he punishes Cowboy. Let's see what happens. I mean, I do think, again, Gaethje deserves Khabib before anybody else after the Ferguson fight, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Muay Thai 23 says the man's buzzing about his paycheck. It's either Khabib or Masvidal for McGregor next. My goodness, Muay Thai 23. I'd be buzzing about my paycheck too, brother, if I was fighting Conor McGregor. Aaron Eagle Run, thank you so much for joining the chat, brother. If you guys haven't, hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon. We go live Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 p.m. Pacific right here on this channel. We also go live immediately after the big fights, and we air our own live fights right here on this channel for everybody to watch for free. All we ask is that you guys donate a little something. Help me build the only kickboxing promotion in the entire state of California. You heard that right. We're having our first Pro-Am card on February 28th. And again, the only kickboxing promotion in the state of California, because promoting costs so much damn money. You got to come out of pocket. If you guys can help me a little bit, it's greatly appreciated. It's kind of a crowd-funded vibe I'm trying to make here. It's a really great thing to do for these young fighters. And if we can get this promotion on a very high level and get them paid to do what they love, which is fight, that would be a dream come true, I think, for everybody. So yeah. Let's get back to this here. So, where were we? Aaron Eagle Run says, will Khabib be next to the ring? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't know what's going to happen if Khabib's going to get Conor next. But, I do think, again, after Khabib fights Ferguson, he really needs to get in there and fight with Gaethje. I think that's fair. Malcolm Coley says, gotcha. Thank you, my brother. Much appreciated. Whiskey Dragonfly says, Cowboy has a more diversified skill set. Conor is a sprinter that's great on angles. Cowboy's a marathon back and forth mover. They both have defensive deficiencies. But Whiskey, it sounds like your money is on Cowboy, my brother. Who's your money on, Whiskey? If your money is on Cowboy, Whiskey, I got a feeling, brother, that you are speaking from the heart and not from the brain. Because I do know what you're saying. I see what you're saying. But I think you're going with your heart over your mind on this one. I don't think Cowboy has enough skill to overcome Conor. And I think his deficiencies are more than Conor McGregor's. Muay Thai 23 says, Justin gonna get left to the side for all the big fights. He just doesn't bring a draw compared to the fights that are available. You might be right about that, Muay Thai 23. What drives me nuts about that, though, is why I understand this is a money business. I think integrity is also very important in this business, and especially when you're the UFC. I mean, you're the top, you're the best. So what's the need to try to milk every single cent out of these fights? Why not make the fights that make sense and keep the fans happy? You don't have to go for the money, the biggest money fight every time, because every fight is a money fight for the UFC. I'm sure they're doing great, but I think if Justin Gaethje gets skipped for a bigger money fight, I think it's just a bad look, especially from the UFC. It makes it look like they need that money, and it's a desperate look, and as a promoter, I definitely don't want to look desperate, but hey, for some people, the money means everything, it means more than everything. Don Verga says Masvidal is an easier fight for McGregor. I don't think McGregor can stop Usman's wrestling. You might be right about that. Malcolm Coley says lay and pray. I agree with the lay and pray, brothers. That's probably what's going to happen. If they end up fighting each other, that's Usman and Conor. It's probably going to be lay and pray. Muay Thai 23 says Usman would manhandle McGregor unless McGregor can rock him with an early one, but I don't think that would happen. Yeah, that'd be a very, very tough fight for McGregor. I mean, that's a huge size difference too, I think. I don't know. I just feel like Usman is way bigger than Conor McGregor. But that being said, knuckleheads, I want to thank you guys for joining me in the Conor McGregor versus Cowboy Cerrone Final Prediction, the live forum. Thank you guys for joining. I'm going to head out now, but I will catch up with you guys tomorrow immediately after the fight. Get your whiskey ready. Get your beer ready. Get your drink ready. It's going down. We're going to talk about the fight tomorrow. It's going to be an exciting one. You've got the prediction. Don't spend all your money at the sports book. Until next time, knuckleheads, keep it clean. Much appreciated.